Good afternoon, friends. It is pouring rain here in Farmington Hills, Michigan today, and this is Wednesday Inspiration for September the 22nd. So this is the first day of fall, and we're bringing it in with very, very fall-like temperatures here in Farmington Hills. I don't know how it is for all of you, and it is pouring, pouring, pouring rain, and is going to do so for another 24 hours or so, they say. And so this is a good time for us to think about how new seasons can be new beginnings. And one of the new beginnings that we will have right now is, having finished the series on the fruits of the Spirit, I'm going to do a little 4-part series for the next 4 weeks, this week and the next 3 rather, on the Beatitudes, on the sayings of Jesus, the blessed R's. And so I think that should be pretty fun. I put up the first pair that we're going to talk about today, but before I start that, I'd like to read to you the whole selection, just because I think context is important. So I'm going to back up a little bit, and I'm going to start at Matthew 4:23 and then read through 5:10. Jesus went throughout Galilee, teaching in the synagogues and proclaiming the good news of the kingdom and curing every disease and every sickness among the people. So his fame spread throughout all Syria, and they brought to him all the sick, those who were afflicted with various diseases and pains, demoniacs, epileptics, and paralytics, and he cured them. And the crowds followed him from Galilee, the Decapolis, Jerusalem, Judea, and from beyond the Jordan. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up the mountain, and he sat down. After he sat down, his disciples came to him. Then he began to speak, and he taught them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." So that is the New Revised Standard Version translation. And, sorry, I hit the ringer on my phone. That is the New Revised Standard Version translation. And I want to think about these things. And to do that, I will use some of Eugene Peterson's work from the Message translation, because I think it's helpful to think about it in different words. The Beatitudes, first of all, are something that was given as a teaching to the disciples of Jesus. And I didn't really hit on that until I was doing close reading for this presentation, that it is not like his voice is going out. There was no sound equipment. I don't know how I thought everyone would have heard him. Magic? I don't know. But that is not the case. What happened was Jesus would teach his closest followers and then send them out. That is the pattern throughout the New Testament. And of course, it's still the pattern, right? We are the disciples of Jesus. And so he is also teaching us and then sending us out. And so Eugene Peterson has given us a translation. This is the Message translation, and it's from original languages. It was made by a single author, so usually it would not be the only one you would use, but it sure is an interesting perspective to read those things and to think. So first I'm going to read that section from chapter 4, just to, again, give context. From there, Jesus went all over Galilee. He used synagogues for meeting places and taught people the truth of God. God's kingdom was his theme. Beginning right now, they were under God's government, a good government. He also healed people of their diseases and the bad effects of their bad lives. I love how that's put, don't you? Word got around the entire Roman province of Syria. People brought anybody with an ailment, whether mental, emotional, or physical. Jesus healed them, one and all. More and more people came, the momentum gathered. Besides those from Galilee, crowds came from the 10 towns across the lake, others up from Jerusalem and Judea, and still others from across the Jordan. So I want to pause there and say, so this group of people crowding around Jesus, following him through the countryside, were people not who were coming out of their perfection, not people who'd heard he was the latest thing, not the leaders of the communities, but instead people who really needed good news, people who were sick, of body or of mind or of heart, people who had friends or family members who needed healing of many kinds, people who in their very closest beings needed to hear good news, which is what Jesus was preaching. And so now let's continue with just the first little section that we're going to think about today. When Jesus saw his ministry drawing huge crowds, he climbed up a hillside. In the Bible, whenever anyone goes up a mountain, time to pay attention. Those who were apprenticed to him, the committed, climbed with him. Arriving at a quiet place, he sat down and taught his climbing companions. And that's when I began to say, oh, that's a different group of people than I'd originally thought. And this is what he said. You're blessed when you're at the end of your rope. With less of you, there is more of God and his rule. When you're at the end of your rope, that's when you're blessed, when you're poor in spirit. I feel like that's a helpful gloss to what being poor in spirit would be, when you're downhearted, when you're feeling drained, when you're feeling used up. And is that not how we are feeling now, my friends? I know so many of us are just saying, oh, this pandemic, it's never going to end. And how are we going to live with it? And how are we going to adjust? And it has changed us in ways we don't even know. And it's making us sad and it's making us mad. And we have nowhere to put those things. And somehow we need to find our gladness. According to Jesus, understand, you don't need to find your blessing. You already have it. You already have it because with less of you, with less dependence on planning, with less dependence on saying, I am in control of everything. I mean, I like to plan. I have a very, very busy bullet journal, and I like to be able to put it in and cross things off. But when there is less of that, there is more room to say, God, I can't. You will have to do this. There is more room to say, God, how is it that you would have us be? There is more room to say, wow, nothing is as permanent as I thought. And maybe, in some ways, that's okay. Because maybe, in some ways, this leads, as Eugene Peterson says, translates, there is more room for God and his rule. Jesus also said, you're blessed when you feel you've lost what is most dear to you. Only then can you be embraced by the one most dear to you. So this is complicated, right? I've just done 2 funerals in the last 6 days, and I've got one more coming up tomorrow, not a church member, but somebody who is in need, whose family was in very deep need of pastoral care, of a minister who was referred to me. And I am happy to offer this because this is a time when people need us the most. And so to hear that we are blessed when we mourn, when we grieve, when we're feeling like something has been taken away, certainly when we're grieving lives, but how many other things are you grieving? What else are you mourning? Have you had a child go away to school? Have you lost or are remembering the loss of a parent? Have you had things that you thought were solid come undone? Have you had the pandemic undo your sense of health or well-being? Have you had the various things in your life suddenly seem to conspire against you? There are people today in our area, I guess I should go to the right window, in our region who are emptying their basements frantically and worrying that flooding is going to take away what's left since the last flood. They are mourning as well. They are grieving. And of course, those who feel like everything I held dear is gone from me. Well, again, Eugene Peterson says, only then can you be embraced by the one most dear to you. Now, at first that sounds odd. Doesn't God embrace us all the time? But I have 3 daughters, and when they were teenagers, there were a lot of times when they did not want to be embraced by me. They did not want me to hold them close. Their mother who loved them, their mother who they turned to whenever they were in trouble. They did not want all those hugs. They were resistant to the affection because they felt that they just had all that it took. They felt that they were fine, that they were sufficient. But when the worst things of their times happened, when they backed through the garage door with the car and ripped the door off its hinges and thought they would be in horrible trouble, when they had had breakups, had had the heartaches that teenagers have, when they went through the time when so many of our relatives died that they started to call it the years when everybody died, those were the times when they needed my embrace. But even more, they and I needed God's embrace. God's embrace to remind us we are not alone. God's embrace to remind that our sense of loss is not the end of everything. God's embrace to hold us close when we could no longer hold anything else close. You are blessed when you have those times. That blessed doesn't mean that you're super happy. Blessed doesn't mean that you're not filled with grief. Blessed means that you understand the closeness of God. Because the point of these Beatitudes, as we'll go through them over the next 4 weeks, is that we are blessed all the time. We are always feeling God's blessing. And there are people who say, oh, I'm too blessed to be stressed. But you are blessed when you are stressed too. There are people who say, oh, God has blessed me with all these great rewards. But you are also blessed when you have lost everything. There are those who say, God has blessed me and too bad about you. But the crowds that followed Jesus, the crowds that he was teaching his disciples to love, those people were the last and the least. They were the poor and the dirty and the leprous. They were the homeless and the helpless and the hopeless. And those people were particularly blessed by being in the presence of Jesus. And that is true now. So I'm going to play a piano selection played by Pat Butler. 'Tis so sweet to trust in Jesus, because, of course, we know about these blessings because of Jesus, because he has taught this to his followers. And I'm going to put up a few prompts because people have said they enjoy that. So I've got 3 prompts over the course of about a 2.5-minute piece of music. And then we'll be back for some prayers. I just love that piece of music. It just makes me feel calm and ready to be still and to bring myself into the presence of God. A God who, and if you want one takeaway from this particular time that we are together, it is that God is always seeking to bless us, not to break us. And so in that spirit of prayer, let us join our hearts together. O gracious God, this world can be a hard place. It can be a difficult time. And sometimes It feels as though you are very far away. So we need reminders, O God, reminders every day, reminders in your word, reminders from Jesus that you are not far away, that you are as close to us as our own breath, that your Spirit dwells within us and moves through us and moves out from us into the world, that you are always seeking us out, even when we run away from you, even when we push you aside, to love us, to care for us, to nurture us, to bless us. And so bless us when we are poor in spirit. Bless us when we are filled with grief. Bless us when we are sick at heart. Bless us when we are sick in body. Bring us healing where healing may come, and bring us comfort, even in the midst of the most difficult times. Bless us when we mourn, when we remember the losses most recent and long-standing. Bless us by sending people to us to give comfort and care, and bless us when we can be the people who bring the comfort and care to others. Bless us when we don't know which way to turn, because that is when we can turn to you. And so, O God, help us not only to turn to you, but to trust you, to entrust ourselves to you, to trust in the love that is there. Just as we heard in the song, it is so sweet to trust in you, and yet sometimes it is so hard. So cure our stubbornness, O God. Cure our hardness of spirit when we judge others with anything other than love and compassion. Help us to be agents of your grace and reconciliation rather than seeking to further our own ends or turning to solutions that will not bring healing and wholeness to us or to our world. Lead us even through the valley of the shadow of death, but also wherever we go. Settle us beside the still waters. Help us to remember the calm place deep within where you are always dwelling and beckoning us to come and find rest. O God, be our God in times of rest, and then send us forth so that we may be your people in the tumult and the difficulty that is this world. Help us to bless one another and help us to be a blessing to all whom we meet, so that we may truly love and serve in Jesus' name. And it is he who taught us to pray, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. And so may God bless you after this time together, whether you're watching it live or you're rewatching it or you're watching it in recorded form. Know that God is blessing us all so that we may be a blessing to the world. And so I thank you for all that you are, for all that you bring, and I wish that God will bless you until we meet again.